Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Saturday's Alaska Statewide Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting the show today. And starting off here with the hazardous weather graphic, the river breakup map. You can see pretty much open now all along the Yukon. In fact, all the southern rivers open, everything south of the Brooks Range, and the AKwx River has some ice still here in the mid and upper reaches, and then open on down to the mouth. And it looks like the Colville is, or the, I believe that's the Colville, yes. Colville River is open, and the Sagwan here is open until you get down toward the coast there, and there's still some ice. And then the one in the middle here still has some ice on it too. I forget, I just can't remember the name of that one now, but that's about it. Otherwise, we're coming to a close here almost on the breakup season. In fact, the map, as you can see, says the 23rd. I didn't see one in there today, and yesterday's wasn't updated, but I wanted to show it again because it still have the flood advisory out there for the AKwx River until into Monday afternoon. At this point, it's been extended for minor flooding that's been occurring due to snowmelt between Aviation and Hughes. In that area there, that's a stretch in between on the AKwx, and again, that's expect minor flooding in the Hughes areas to continue, at least probably through the day, Memorial Day. Otherwise, no problems weather-wise around the state, no watches, warnings, or advisories, but there is a red flag warning out for the north slopes of the central and eastern Alaska range for extreme fire conditions or extreme fire danger that's expected to kick in and continue through tomorrow and into, actually, I believe, through most of Monday. And that's the reason it's going to be extreme is south to southeast winds increasing through the passes there, 20 to 30 miles an hour with gusts to 45 miles an hour. So with the dry conditions and the temperatures running 70 to 75 in the afternoons there, instead of a wind advisory, they've got a extreme fire danger advisory, also known as a red flag warning out. And for today's fire danger, kind of spotty here over the southeast interior. Well, actually, Susitna Valley has some areas of high fire danger for spruce. Kenai Peninsula, same thing. And the usual spots there in the Copper River Basin. And then on the north side of the Alaska Range here is more extensive here from north and northwest of Denali Park on down the east side into the Kuskokwim Valley, actually, here, too, of the western Alaska Range, up there near the eastern Kobuk Valley, western AKwx, and then over the Yukon Flats, all in the high fire danger zone today. And that's going to increase once the winds pick up here for the Alaska Range later tonight, or actually tomorrow. That's will kick it into the extreme category. Moving on to satellite imagery, pretty nice up in that area today with sunshine. Have the trailing edge, just some clouds here of this system that's moving off across the Great Slave Lake there and into the Arctic. That's keeping clouds, hills north of Fairbanks a little bit there, and that kept the temperatures down from what they otherwise would have been. Otherwise, we have mid-70s in and around the upper Tanana Valley, central Tanana Valley there from Fairbanks, actually down into the northeastern Copper River Basin. And pretty nice day here over the southeast coast as well. Haines, 75 degrees, Juneau 70. There are some clouds here along the coast, but not too bad. Sunshine, temperatures ranging 65 to 75 here across even the southern areas. And then we have a front here pushing rain today into definitely bearing down on Kodiak Island with gusty winds and about a half an inch of rain falling in the last 12 hours in a 12-hour period, ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And that moisture spreading on up, as you can see, pretty nicely here, right up in the Cook Inlet, moving southeast to, or southwest to northeast pretty rapidly. A little sooner than I thought it was going to get up into northern Cook Inlet yesterday. It's been raining here in Anchorage, and that'll continue to push northeastward, but slow down actually here as time goes on. It's going to stay wet over Kodiak Island. We had about 1/10 of an inch so far in Cook Inlet in some areas today, and also have an inch back there at Cape Newenham on the southwest coast here, and varied amounts of precipitation here, all under 1/2 an inch across the Kuskokwim Valley. To some areas didn't get any actually, and anyway, maybe 1/10 of an inch or so in areas back to the west and southwest across Nunivak Island. St. George Island picked about 1/1700ths of an inch, and that moisture extends down to the eastern Aleutians. A little bit of a break, but no clearing here to the west. And you can see the next front pushing wind and near gale force winds into the western Aleutians with more precipitation that's starting to edge in toward Adak. Just beginning to rain there now. They picked up 1/100th of an inch just recently. And let's see, rolling that through again. Not much change here. Low clouds, patchy areas of fog, northern Bering Sea, all the way along the Arctic coast there. And on the chart today, there's roughly the position of the front currently here right along the coastline, inland a little bit there with the rainfall pushing northeastward into Cook Inlet. And we got a thermal trough actually here. Isolated thunderstorm possible. I left it on there. It could still happen, even though I hadn't seen any lightning strikes. But there were some clouds there that may or may not happen. In fact, right now I don't think it probably will, due to the stabilizing effect that's going on up there as this system approaches. And notice here in the last hour, those clouds are actually dissipating and shoved back into Canada. So I don't think it's too likely any thunderstorm activity will occur up there. And the sunshine over the southeast coast, really nice conditions here. You can see mostly clear skies right up in some cases into the north slope, with the low clouds and fog in the Arctic coast on down through the Bering Strait. Moving on to tonight's forecast. Rain, periods of, spread northeastward and begin to slow down in its advance, but should make it over to Cape Yakataga, which means Cordova, Prince William Sound, Valdez, probably the least chance of rain, or have the least chance of rain in Valdez. Best chance, western Prince William Sound, of course into Portage, Girdwood, and portions of Cook Inlet. Kind of not really a tight gradient, but not a good pattern here for any significant precipitation over eastern Cook Inlet, say Anchor Point on up to Palmer, but look for some periods of light rain along this frontal boundary, even less of that up west of the Alaska Range, and rain, fog, drizzle into Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula. Another system down here, low pressure, just near the Pueblo, so I'll keep it damp and unsettled there. Wind's not much of a problem with that center. The other one that's pushing into the Aleutians, take a drop off to the southeast there. So rain changes to showers out in that area for tomorrow. This front pushes northeastward or continues northeastward and begins to weaken. And whatever rain is still going in northern Cook Inlet or south central Alaska tomorrow to start the day with will turn to just scattered showers and mostly cloudy skies for the remainder of the day, afternoon into the evening, with the rain here over Prince William Sound and the eastern North Gulf coast now, with the rain pushing in toward the Yakutat area during the afternoon, light rain. Another mostly sunny day, inland areas of the southeast coast, could be some low clouds there hanging onto the outer coastline. Thermal low, look for temperatures maybe even warmer than today up there, 75 to 85, warmest over toward the border here for the eastern interior. Otherwise, we've got moisture and rainfall pushing northwestward with that system up to the western Brooks Range. But again, amounts won't be very significant. Cloudy, mostly cloudy, scattered showers along the southwest coast and Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, to a lesser extent over the Kuskokwim Valley. And light south flow will keep clouds and some moisture for the Alaska Peninsula, improving back out to the west a little bit. And then the outlook for Monday, a weak front sort of develops right in this area here. So look for some periods of light rain with that feature. Otherwise, a trough, again, is going to keep it cloudy and wet most of the time, if not all of the time, for Kodiak Island. Isolated showers, partly sunny skies for south central Alaska here. More sunshine, though, farther north you go into the central interior, looking really good once again. This area of moisture lifting up to the north there, all the way out to the north slope and Arctic coast. Look for periods of light rain and fog along the coastline, and showery conditions diminish as you get over toward Arctic Village, but kind of holding pretty cloudy and wet up along the northwest coast, Noatak Valley. Remnants of this front here keeps a chance of showers right along or off the coast, and maybe a chance of rain off in Cove to Yakutat. Otherwise, pretty nice. Should still see some sunshine over the over toward the eastern border there, and then on down to the south for the Panhandle. Lows for tonight down that way in the 40s. in the mid to upper 40s here, southern Alaska, lower 50s up in the central interior, and 20s, and then 75 to 85 degree highs tomorrow, and that continues into the day on Monday as well, with temperatures 60s to lower 70s for the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first flying weather graphic for Sunday morning. Lots of IFR, of course, out over the Bering Sea, not quite reaching the Yukon Delta coast here, up to across St. Lawrence Island, and then more up here over the North Slope and central and western Arctic coast. Marginal VFR on the east side. VFR here, central eastern interior, down to about the Coast Range North Gulf Coast. But as you can see, IFR up the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, and then socked in here, Alaska Peninsula on the Pacific side, up across Kodiak, in along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and over to along the coast of the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, it goes VFR across all of the inside waters here, and probably even maybe along the coast with the lower conditions right off the coast. VFR, eastern interior, marginal VFR on the west side, some areas of IFR, Arctic coast. Socked in IFR here, Gulf of Alaska, up to the North Gulf Coast, on down across Kodiak and the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. And Bristol Bay, marginal. Eastern Aleutians, marginal. IFR for much of the central and western Bering. And for Monday morning, pattern continues. Solid IFR out here over the Bering Sea, right up to the southwest coast. Not quite reaching Unmak Island, with marginal VFR up into Bristol Bay and pushing northeastward here, as you can see, advancing, still holdout here due to downsloping winds over in northern Cook Inlet and the Matanuska Valley, but some of this marginal VFR getting up toward the Fairbanks area, maybe, staying VFR on the east side there, with IFR continuing Kodiak Island, maybe into Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet, and up along the North Gulf Coast. And for the afternoon, big improvement here. You can see VFR makes a comeback all the way out to Norton Sound, Kotzebue Sound, and even portions of the North Slope, with VFR bringing out over Bristol Bay, and just a narrow area of IFR there on the south side of Kenai Peninsula from, say, Passage Canal on down the east side of Kodiak, and then some more IFR here, well, a fair distance off the southeast coast of the marginal VFR right up to the coastline. Passes tomorrow, Anaktuvuk starting out VFR, becoming marginal probably in the afternoon. And Adigan, same trend, becoming marginal VFR after a VFR start to the day tomorrow. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, lowest flying conditions will be IFR on the eastern approaches of both passes. And for Rainy, I think it'll just be marginal VFR with even on the eastern entrance here. Could possibly be IFR at times, could possibly be VFR in the west entrance. And for Windy, chance of marginal VFR southern entrance, otherwise staying VFR, especially out the north side. And for Isabel, same pattern here, marginal VFR southern entrance, better conditions to the north. And in Tasta, I think clouds will increase, ceilings will lower, but I think they won't reach the marginal threshold until maybe after 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. And for Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal VFR, IFR in the eastern entrance, or it could be IFR with low IFR in the eastern entrance. Have to wait and see. And for Chilkoot and White, another day of VFR flying through those passes. Freezing levels, very warm air aloft of that upper ridge here. 10,000 feet southeast coast, right up into the 40-mile country there, and then falling back a little bit, 8,000 feet, 6,000 feet up along the Arctic coast, and 4,000 feet over the Bering Sea. Icing, the most significant area will be right through here with that southeast flow in the main frontal boundary, and there could be an area of considerable moderate rime icing with that coming up during the day tomorrow. These areas back here to the west, a little less significant, probably no moderate at all, just areas of light rime icing possible. Looking at the jet stream, there's that strong upper level ridge now over the Yukon there, and upper low over the Bering Sea, and kind of a squeeze put on the atmosphere here between those two centers. We've got southeast flow, south-southeast, 130 knots right up across the Kenai Peninsula there, and then it goes all the way up to the western Arctic coast. Taking a look at the 9,000-foot wind flow chart, pretty light, 5 to 15 here at 3,000 feet, or 9,000 feet, I'm sorry, for the southeast coast, up to 35 out of the south, east of Kodiak there, right up into Prince William Sound, 15 to 20 here out toward the southwest coast, with 35 there into Bristol Bay, light winds along the Arctic coast, and 3,000 feet, same pattern, but a little lighter winds, 20 to 30 knots here from Lotto Hills down into Kodiak Island, and light for the Panhandle. Taking a look at turbulence, considerable moderate chop, likely for small aircraft, Prince William Sound and Mananuska Valley, as long as along the Alaska Range into northeast Bristol Bay.
On March 11, 2011, a powerful tsunami hit Japan, destroying cities and villages. As the water receded back into the ocean, it pulled what remained of buildings, cars, boats, and homes along with it. Scrap metals, plastics, and objects of all shapes and sizes either sank near the shore or floated away. In the days that followed, large masses of floating debris could easily be seen by satellite imagery and aerial photos. In the wake of this disaster, NOAA is assessing the potential impact that the debris may have on U.S. shores. So, where will this debris go, and when will it get there? To help answer those questions, scientists are using computer models to estimate the debris' path, using its starting location in the tsunami zone and historical weather and ocean conditions. The findings are that some debris could pass near or wash ashore in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands as early as this winter. Debris may also approach the west coast of the United States in 2013 and potentially circle back to the main Hawaiian Islands in 2014. But scientists caution that there are limitations to what computer models can tell us, now that the debris has moved out of satellite view, and with currents and winds in the Pacific constantly changing, there is no guarantee that the debris will stay on the predicted path. Items will sink along the way, or break up and disperse in many directions. Despite these unknowns, NOAA and its partners are collecting data, assessing possible impacts, and making preparations in case debris does wash ashore. The 2011 tsunami in Japan reminds us that the devastation that happens on land can also become a marine debris issue at sea.
Imagine all of this underwater. In a major tsunami, it could happen. In this part of Washington state, it's happened before, hundreds of years ago. Sometime in the future, it will likely happen again. But we can be ready. If a tsunami strikes, this school will provide a place for people to ride it out above the waves.
We're in Westport, Washington, and right behind me is the very first tsunami vertical evacuation center in the United States.
We will now begin the tsunami evacuation.
This is an emergency. Please walk to the nearest exit. Go to the stairs tower and proceed up the stairs.
Tsunamis are a potential hazard for low-lying coastal areas. That's why many coastal communities have plans in place to get people to safety, high ground or inland, where they can be beyond the reach of a tsunami. Often there are signs showing where to go and where to gather. Most tsunamis are caused by underwater earthquakes along subduction zones, where two of Earth's plates collide and one is forced under the other. Westport and other Pacific Northwest coastal communities are especially at risk because one of these zones lies just offshore. It's called the Cascadia Subduction Zone. An earthquake here caused a tsunami in 1700 that flooded shores as far away as Japan. Experts say it's just a matter of time before it happens again. Since the subduction zone is so close, a tsunami like the one in 1700 could strike before people in some low-lying areas could get to high ground or inland. And Westport doesn't have a lot of high ground or easy routes inland.
If we get an earthquake or a tsunami, we're going to get a lot of water in the area really quickly, and we needed a place to go. So our community built this brand new school, and above our gym and cafeteria, we have a roof. And so the idea is that we'll get all of our students up, and anybody from the community who needs to get up, they can get up there as well.
Ocosta Elementary School might seem like a normal school, but look more closely. It's engineered to withstand monster waves. Tsunami vertical evacuation shelters must be able to resist the powerful forces that a tsunami brings. Hydrodynamic, buoyant, hydrostatic, and debris impact forces and strong currents. They're also designed to help people get to safety quickly.
There are 4 big staircases on each corner of the building, and each one of those staircases is 8 feet wide, and we can get the whole school evacuated in about 4.5 minutes.
Everybody should be at a 0.
On the roof of the building, there is water and food and buckets and shelters and tarps and blankets and different things so that we can be up there for 2, 3, maybe 4 days while we wait for rescue.
You can go to the top and you know you'll be safe. It feels really nice to have a special building because you feel protected.
This community decided that a tsunami evacuation center was important because they didn't have anywhere to go, and they decided to use their money to build the building. The additional cost is anywhere between 10 and 20% of the actual building cost itself, and that's really a sound investment for a lot of protection. You may be there a while, but you're safe and you're secure, and that's the most important thing.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, we've got, again, still slowly melting and opening up here north of the strait, all the way back along the coast. Still have ice along the immediate coastline here, and the trend's going to continue for the next 5-6 days. This trend will continue for the next 5 or 6 days of slowly melting. And for the coastal water forecast, there are pretty light winds along the outer coastline of the Panhandle, anywhere from northwest on the south coast to southeast 10 to 15 up there in the north. Lynn Canal, south winds at 20 knots, otherwise variable at 10 here for the inside waters. And for the outlook on Monday, still kind of a variable light wind pattern going on here for the central and southern inside waters with slight seas, south 15 Lynn Canal. Also, light winds continue here along the coast of about 10 knots, 6-foot seas west on the south coast, go southwest, and then again 10 to 15 out of the south-southeast on the north coast. Prince William Sound for tomorrow, northeast at 20 with 2-foot seas, and the eastern North Gulf Coast, pretty light wind, southwest at 10, and then 15 knots here for the western North Gulf Coast, southeast 20 for the Barren Islands, east 25, just small craft advisories here for the Kamishak Bay area. Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, southerly winds at 20 knots, lighter to the north. And for Shelikof Strait for tomorrow, we've got northeast winds at 20 knots, southeast 15 there for the east side of Kodiak. Southeast winds 20 knots for Sunday for the Alaska Peninsula, east at 20 for Bristol Bay. And moving on to the outlook for Memorial Day here, we've got southeasterlies at 20 knots continuing for the Alaska Peninsula and those seas. Not too bad, running 5 to 7 feet. Southeast 25, so small craft advisories for Bristol Bay with 4-foot seas. And then also small craft advisories here from Castle Cape, right on up the east side of Kodiak Island due to those 8-foot seas. And Shelikof Strait, east winds at 20 with 6-foot seas. Fox Islands, let's see, for Unalaska Island, we've got south to southeast, 15 to 20 knots, and then becoming lighter And then probably west in Nikolsky is where this northwest 15 to 20 will be, and then northwest 20 for AKwx. And that holds on out to roughly Amchitka to maybe Kiska, and then it's northeast 15. And for Monday, a little pickup in the wind out there in the western zone, northwest 25, and then northwest 20 here from Kiska Island across to AKwx, and 15-knot northwest winds for Runmack Island, and we'll call it south-southeast at 20 for Unalaska Island. For the southwest coast, east 20 south of Nunivak Island, north side there, we got east at 15. Pretty light winds up across St. Lawrence Island into Norton Sound, southeast 10 to 15. East 20 for the Pribilofs and northeast 20 for St. Matthew Island. And then for the Memorial Day outlook, we're looking at lighter winds for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island, northeast 15. And seas running 5 to 6 feet. Southeast 20 south of Nunivak Island, east 20 on the north side. And light winds for Norton Sound, north 15 for St. Lawrence Island. Moving up to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast for tomorrow, east winds 15 to 20 knots, 20 knots for the central coast. And small craft advisories here on the west side. Strongest winds there, east to 25, back down to 20 here coming around Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and east 15 there on down to Wales. And in that zone on Monday, that turns northwest at 15, and then from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, we've got northeast 15. And then holding on to the small craft advisory there for the not only the western side of the coastline, central coast as well, and a pretty significant increase here even on the east side. We're looking at 30-knot winds all the way over to demarcation points, sustained 30 out of the east. And for tonight, rain continues, periods of light rain. South central Alaska spreading across Prince William Sound, trying to push into the western Copper River Basin. It'll be pretty slow to do that. And starting to thin out even overnight tonight in this portion of the frontal boundary there, with some scattered showers behind, fair and dry over the panhandle in the north and east interior. And for tomorrow, this front continues to push northeastward and weakens, especially west and north of the Alaska Range. Any rain will turn to showers south central Alaska, but looks pretty wet for the eastern North Gulf Coast, slowly spreading into Yakutat. Sunny and warm for the panhandle, sunny and warm. Temperatures into the lower to mid 80s in some areas here, the eastern interior, depending on the amount of sunshine you get. And then moving into the Memorial Day weekend, we've got wet weather up here in the northwest, as well as the north slope in the Arctic coast. Partly sunny, call it, for the panhandle. Sunny and warm north of the Alaska Range, maybe the Copper River Basin areas. Otherwise, partly sunny south central Alaska, rain Kodiak, and wet and unsettled for the Alaska Peninsula and southeast Bering Sea. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.